And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming today. I'd like to begin by making a statement, a short statement, and then if you have any questions, that'll be fine. First of all, we thank God for our new Holy Father. The election of Pope Francis brings new leadership to the Catholic faithful here in the Diocese of Cleveland and around the world. Francis is the new name chosen by Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio, Cardinal Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Argentina. As Supreme Pastor of the Universal Church, we pray that his word and example will inspire and guide all of us. I ask for the prayers of all people in the Diocese of Cleveland, Catholics as well as our brothers and sisters of other religious convictions, that the Lord will give our new shepherd a spirit of courage, right judgment, knowledge, and love. And I also pray that Pope Francis may be a champion of the poor, a reconciler of nations, and a force for peace and unity in our world. Needless to say, I do not know an awful lot about our new Holy Father. The thing that does strike me, as it happened 8 years ago when Cardinal Ratzinger became Pope Benedict, that the election happened on the second day. So it shows that the cardinals knew him well enough to vote for him so that he would have at least 2/3 of the votes. To me, that says a lot, that they know this man who has only served really in Argentina. And so he has made an impact upon the electors in the cardinals. So that's the first thing that really strikes me. Also, the first that someone from the Western Hemisphere, the first from North or South or Central America, and also the first Jesuit who has been chosen to be our Holy Father. So there are some very significant firsts in this election.
What will be the moving forward from here?
Well, I think, a major part that he will have to, to come to grips with is the issues from around the world. A man who has spent his life in work in South America is, I'm sure, not as conversant with the issues that face other parts of the world, notably our own area, Europe, Africa, the Far East. I think that's a major issue that he has to, get a sense of what are the issues, around the world, and then to begin to address them, following in the tradition of where we have been coming from, especially the last 50 years being grounded so much in the teachings of the Vatican Council. And so those are still being implemented across the world.
Is it beneficial at all?
Well, I think, it matters from the little that I've read just in the last half hour. He is known as a holy man. And I was reading a work on a spiritual writer the other day, and the first line was, "A Christian is one who prays, and a saint is one who prays often." If this man is spiritual, that's what we need first and foremost, because it brings us closer to God, and then from there we have the energy and the direction of where we as a faith community are headed.
Are you excited?
I'm very excited, I really am. The idea that someone has come from the third world, who has an experience of poverty and struggles with various governments and all that, he has actually lived through this. And I think that's an invaluable lesson that he can share with us, and he's ministered to people. He's been a diocesan bishop, and so he knows what the people suffer in those South American countries.
In light of that,
Every pope brings their own focus, their own experience. So I'm sure every pope, is not a carbon copy of what went before them. So I mean, I'm sure that he'll bring his own emphases, probably based on some of the, the struggles that he's had, say, with the problem of poverty, and how that affects people and cultures so much. I wouldn't be surprised that, when you bring yourself to something, you bring your emphases and all that, and it is an interaction, not just a one-way street. You also are listening to the faithful. So, but, right now, he's only been Pope for a couple of hours. I'm sure he's not even, responding when they say, Your Holiness. And he's wondering, well, where is he?
Concerns about
You're right. And, and certainly the cardinals who are entrusted with this important work, they were well aware that he's 76. And you're right. When Cardinal Ratzinger was chosen, he was 78. Now, what that says, I don't know. Not being.
concerns about the age.
Well, not really, because for example, in our country, the idea of Cardinal Ratzinger becoming Pope at his age served, 8 years. Well, that's what a president of the United States does. So I know it's a different kind of service, but it's not, so, unique. In point of fact, other leaders have 8 years. And so at 76, this man, if he's graced with health, could very well have, 8 years also of making a contribution. Oh, I think that says a lot. I think that's a very good, observation. It really does, and it's acknowledging that the majority of the Catholics today are in Africa and in South America, and so it's acknowledging the, the good leadership that they have that can go the next step and become the leadership for the entire church. Well, I'm sure that brings, a richness to his life. It's like, any of us who, have gone through formation from anywhere from 8 to 12 years, that becomes very, very formative as identifying who we are. Well, I think, some of the things I said in this, brief statement, I also pray that, Pope Francis may be a champion of the poor, a reconciler of nations. Lord knows we have those issues across the world today, and a force for peace and unity. That became my personal line at the end of this, because I think that that's what we're looking for, in the depths of our hearts, for what is good for humankind. Well, I don't know, to be honest, because I don't know, he hasn't yet said if Francis, was chosen because of Francis of Assisi or Francis Xavier, or maybe some other Francis in his life. So it's an unknown until he shares with us what Francis means, to him. It's like, I think back 8 years ago when Cardinal Ratzinger was chosen, and he took the name Benedict, and he said it's because of his admiration for how Pope Benedict XV, at the time of World War I, had tried to work for peace in Europe. So it was for a special reason. He wanted to try to emulate that kind of outreach. Well, I can't help but believe that Francis means something to our new Pope, and I'm sure that he will share it, as to the specificity of what it is. Oh, I'm sure he is. As I saw it, I couldn't help but wonder how many people are actually watching this across the world. Now, there's no way that, that we'll ever know, granted, but, within 45 minutes, not only was, the plaza full but the road all the way to the Tiber was full. When the bells rang, we have a pope. I mean, people came from everywhere, to find out who it was going to be. From Bob Tayak's office, because he has a TV and I don't. And so I went down and I watched the TV in his room. Yeah, I was one of those, spectators, and very eager to find out who it was. And, and it just took a while before they got the, it all ready, and then they came out and shared with us the news. Okay, well, thanks so much. Thank you for coming. Thank you.